Mac lived alone. The old mansion was his inheritance, a relic of a family he barely knew. It was a place of shadows and silence, of dust-covered portraits with eyes that seemed to follow him. The hallways were long and dark, the ceilings high and lost in gloom. He wandered through rooms choked with the remnants of forgotten lives. Furniture draped in white sheets, their forms indistinct in the dim light filtering through grimy windows. Each footstep echoed in the stillness, a lonely sound in the suffocating quiet. The air hung heavy, thick with the weight of ages, carrying the faint scent of decay. The mansion was a labyrinth of corridors and rooms, each one a testament to a forgotten grandeur. Mac found himself drawn to the silence, the way it pressed in on him, a living presence in the empty halls. Sometimes he imagined he saw things in the periphery of his vision, flickering shadows that vanished when he turned his head. A fleeting glimpse of movement at the end of a hallway, gone before he could focus. He told himself it was just his imagination, the product of a mind too long in solitude, but the silence was a canvas upon which his fears painted monstrous shapes. The shadows seemed to lengthen, to reach out to him with unseen fingers. The mansion held its breath, watching, waiting. One afternoon, exploring the deeper recesses of the mansion, he stumbled upon the library. It was a grand room with towering bookshelves that reached towards the vaulted ceiling. The air was thick with the smell of aging paper and leather, a musty fragrance that spoke of forgotten knowledge. Light filtered in through a single high window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. He ran his fingers along the spines of the books, their titles embossed in faded gold leaf. Ancient tomes bound in leather, their pages brittle with age, histories long forgotten, languages lost to time. The library was a treasure trove of secrets, a repository of the past. One book, lying open on a dusty lectern, caught his eye. It seemed to beckon him, drawing him closer with an almost magnetic pull. The room around him faded into the background as his focus zeroed in on the mysterious tome. Its cover was bound in dark leather, the surface strangely cold to the touch. The leather was worn, yet it exuded an aura of ancient power, as if it had witnessed countless secrets over the ages. Intricate symbols, indecipherable yet strangely disturbing, were etched into its surface. These symbols seemed to pulse with a life of their own, their meaning just out of reach, teasing the edge of his understanding. He traced them with his fingers, a shiver crawling down his spine. The symbols felt almost alive under his touch, sending a jolt of energy through his fingertips as if the book was responding to his presence. As he leaned closer, he could have sworn he heard a faint whisper, a sigh of air that seemed to emanate from the book itself. The whisper was barely audible, like a distant echo of forgotten voices stirring something deep within him. Hesitantly, he opened the book further. Each page turned with a creak, as if the book was reluctant to reveal its secrets. The air around him grew colder, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. The pages were filled with densely written text in a language he didn't recognize, the script flowing and elegant, like calligraphy drawn by a master. The letters seemed to dance on the page, forming patterns that were both beautiful and bewildering. Scattered throughout the text were illustrations, strange and unsettling images that seemed to writhe on the page. These drawings were not static, they seemed to shift and change, as if alive with a dark energy. Creatures with too many eyes, landscapes twisted and alien, rituals depicted in chilling detail. Each image told a story of its own, a glimpse into a world that was both fascinating and terrifying, leaving him with a sense of unease that he couldn't shake. Section 5. An Invocation. In the dimly lit library, shadows danced on the walls, cast by the flickering candlelight. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and dust, a testament to the countless years the books had been resting on their shelves. As he leafed through the book, a single line of text caught his eye. The symbols were unlike anything he had ever seen, yet they seemed to call out to him, beckoning him to delve deeper into their mystery. It was written in a language he almost recognized, the words seeming to writhe on the page. They twisted and turned, forming shapes that were both familiar and alien, as if they were alive and breathing. Compelled by a force he couldn't explain, he found himself reading the words aloud. His voice trembled as he spoke, the syllables rolling off his tongue with an eerie resonance. The syllables felt foreign on his tongue, thick and heavy, as if he were speaking words not meant for human utterance. Each word seemed to carry a weight, pressing down on him, making it difficult to breathe. The moment he finished the phrase, the air in the library seemed to crackle. It was as if the very atmosphere had been charged with an unseen energy, making the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The single window slammed shut, plunging the room into darkness, and the heavy silence was shattered by the sound of his own startled gasp. The suddenness of it all left him reeling, his mind racing to comprehend what had just happened. His heart hammered in his chest as a cold dread gripped him. He had awakened something. The realization hit him like a tidal wave, sending chills down his spine. He could feel it in the stillness, a presence that had been slumbering, now roused by his careless words. The library, once a sanctuary of knowledge, had become a place of foreboding. He knew deep down that he had crossed a line, and there would be no turning back. He fumbled for the switch, but the lamp refused to illuminate. As his eyes adjusted to the gloom, he realized the darkness seemed deeper than it should be, as if the shadows themselves were gathering, coalescing into something more substantial. And then he heard them. Whispers, soft at first, barely audible, slithering through the darkness. They seemed to come from all around him, murmuring his name, their tone laced with a chilling amusement. He spun around, trying to locate the source of the voices, but they seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, pressing in on him, swirling around him like a vortex of unseen malice. Panic welled up inside him, a choking terror he couldn't suppress. He stumbled back, knocking over the lectern, the ancient book falling open to the floor. As he scrambled back, his hand brushed against something cold and hard. Looking down, he saw it. A circle etched into the floor, its lines barely visible beneath the dust and grime. The symbols inscribed within the circle were identical to those in the book, pulsing with a faint, eerie light. He was standing in the center of it. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He had stumbled into something ancient and evil, a place where the veil between worlds was thin, and he had opened a door that should have remained closed. The whispers reached a fever pitch, becoming a cacophony of voices, all chanting in unison, their words blending together into an almost tangible force. The air was thick with the sound, each syllable resonating with an ancient power that seemed to vibrate through the very walls of the room. The sound reverberated through him, seeming to shake the very foundation of the mansion. The chandelier above swayed precariously, its crystals clinking together like a sinister wind chime, while the antique furniture trembled as if alive, reacting to the unseen energy coursing through the space. The temperature plummeted, the air growing heavy and oppressive. A cold mist began to seep into the room, swirling around his feet and rising slowly, making each breath visible in the frigid air. The fog rolled through the house like a living entity, wrapping around him, chilling him to the bone. He tried to move, to break free from the circle, but an unseen force held him fast, its grip unyielding and merciless. His muscles strained against the invisible bonds, but it was as if he were encased in stone. Every attempt to escape met with an impenetrable resistance. The air around him shimmered and distorted, creating a surreal, almost dreamlike effect. It was as if reality itself was bending, warping under the pressure of the summoning. The very fabric of the room seemed to twist and contort, the boundaries between the physical and the ethereal blurring. Above the circle, Where the air swirled and crackled, a shape began to solidify. At first it was nothing more than a vague outline, a suggestion of form amidst the chaos. But slowly, inexorably, it began to take on a more defined shape, the energy coalescing into something tangible. It was indistinct at first, a swirling vortex of shadows, a maelstrom of darkness that seemed to draw in all light. The shadows twisted and writhed, forming a figure that was both there and not there, a presence that defied comprehension. But gradually it resolved into a humanoid form, its eyes burning with a cold, malevolent light. The figure stood tall and imposing, its gaze piercing through the darkness, radiating an aura of pure, unadulterated evil. The eyes glowed with an intensity that seemed to pierce his very soul. Terror, pure and primal, flooded Mac's mind, paralyzing him. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a drum of impending doom. His wide eyes reflected the horror before him, unable to look away, trapped in the gaze of the malevolent entity. He wanted to scream, to beg for mercy, but no sound escaped his lips. His mouth opened in a silent plea, the words frozen in his throat. The fear was so overwhelming, so all-consuming, that it rendered him mute, a prisoner of his own terror. The creature leaned down, its face inches from his, its breath a stench of decay and ancient evil. Mac closed his eyes, unable to bear the sight of the horror before him, waiting for the inevitable. He felt a searing pain, a feeling of being unmade, of his very essence being unraveled. Then silence. The creature was gone. The whispers faded into an unsettling stillness. The only sound was the gentle rustling of ancient pages as a breeze from seemingly nowhere ruffled the book on the floor. The book lay open, the strange symbols glowing faintly in the darkness, waiting for the next unwary soul to awaken the darkness within.